One Question is designed to give subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences.
Greetings, this is Ty Brown and welcome to One Question, where we highlight executive leaders in college athletics. Our guest today is Ron Machtley. Ron is currently in his 23rd year as the president at Bryant University. Greetings, Ron. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Now, Ron, your background includes time served in the Navy. You've spent time as a congressman, and your career trade has been as an attorney. And of course, you are 23 years into your tenure as president there at Bryant. The reason I have you on is because you're currently serving on the NCAA Division I Board of Directors. And I'd like to know about some of your opinions prior to being appointed to that committee versus some of your opinions now. And also, based on your experience leading a Division I institution and your exposure on this influential committee, what are some of your thoughts on how conferences, student athletes, and even the institutions that make up the NCAA should feel about the future of college athletics?
Well, first, to answer your last questions, I'm very bullish about the future of college athletics. I think it's extremely important for students to learn how to develop teamwork and how to win, and frankly, how to lose. And so I'm bullish on it. I think one of the things that made me understand more about the makeup of the NCAA is being on the board and seeing the variety of schools and issues which come before and comprise the NCAA. It's a very complex organization, from Division III schools, which make up the largest majority of schools in the NCAA, Division II, and then Division I. So it's a complex organization, and someone once said, if you show me a simple solution for a complex problem, I'll show you a plausible solution that's wrong. And I think we have to be very careful as we try and formulate general, overarching solutions for what is frankly very complex problems.
Right. I agree with that. Now, prior to getting on the board, did you have opinions about the way the NCAA functioned, and was your philosophy different on things within college athletics?
Yeah, I think like most end users of any regulatory body, you're just looking at how do these regulations affect me, and where there are complex regulations which seem to be rather inappropriate for the circumstances of the institution, you question, how did they ever arrive at this conclusion? But being on the board helped me to realize that the entity is more than regulations. We're really committed to the health and wellness and the education of students in an amateur environment. And when we try and further that mission statement, it becomes really important that we help understand that the NCAA is more than just regulations.
Right. And for the lack of a better term, how has that influence your relationship with the athletics director? Right. You see the things that this person deals with on a grand scale in terms of all of Division I and conferences and those kind of things. And now the president, now you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like your eyes were open to this whole organization of the NCAA. Did that change your interaction with the athletic director in terms of expectations? I mean, obviously you expect to win, but in terms of how they do their job and what is on their plate?
Well, I frankly have an excellent athletic director. Bill Smith and I have been together for a long time. And so we have always, in our case, viewed the purpose of sports and Division I athletics as enhancing the educational experience of the student athlete and making sure that health and wellness is important. But I think that in the overall sense of the institution, we're just now starting a strategic planning process. It's important that we reach out to all presidents and athletic directors and commissioners to help us all to appreciate the purpose is more than just regulations and trying to prevent people from doing what they think is appropriate. It's really fundamentally, how do we educate our students better? How do we make sure that they participate in a safe and a well-being environment? And what's going to help them to, when they graduate, become very good citizens in the United States?
Yeah, that's important. Of course, as a former student athlete, I appreciate when people use those words, especially coming from somebody in your position. I wonder, during your time on that board of directors, have you seen things or even had to give opinions about things that you've seen have changed the landscape in the last few years? The tough decisions you have to make, but decisions that were probably necessary in order to better college athletics.
Well, right now, I think one of the most important initiatives we have underway is the implementation of the Rice Commission recommendations in basketball. Some of these make just common sense. The addition of 5 independent directors to the Board of Governors, which I also sit on, is a very important step forward in regaining the confidence of both the public and the private enterprise and individuals in our country. I think there's a lot of cynicism out there that basketball is just a one and done, who makes the most money, and it's all about money as opposed to educating our students to become successful graduates of our institutions. I was in charge of helping us to understand how we could bring independent directors onto our board, which is the best governance policies for most corporations in America today. So it's a good step forward, and I'm delighted that we're moving forward on this issue.
You bring those, I guess, outside, quote-unquote, voices in that can look at things objectively and give direction or provide, I guess, suggestions on direction, right?
Exactly. They have no either conflict of interest or an apparent conflict of interest. And this was a very important term. We want people of stature and experience that will come in and be able to step back and say, well, I don't run an institution of athletics. I don't run a school. I'm a private citizen who looks at what's in the best interest of the students and in the best interest of college amateur sports. That's a different perspective.
Right, which would be good perspective also. Now, I do have a question relative to your tenure as president, 23 years. 23 years ago, I believe I was just graduating high school. I think the president's involvement in college athletics was probably a lot different 23 years ago. How have you seen it's right up there with the importance of everything else on campus to you, which you have to process so much information with so many people reporting to you in such a huge organization, a campus. Tell me, how have you seen that grow over 23 years, the athletics and your involvement, the actual president's involvement in athletics over the last 23 years?
Well, I think that the athletic department often in the past was sort of an outside entity that presidents weren't involved with. But as it became more of a larger business, as there became more focus on the issues of compliance, there needs to be, and in this new commission report that came out from Commissioner Rice, even presidents are going to have to attest to the fact that they didn't know or should not have known of some serious violation of the rules which could affect the amateur status or the individuals involved. So that has really changed. Now presidents have to understand what's going on in their athletic department. It's not good enough to just sort of cover your eyes and your ears and not pay attention. Presidents have to know, and rightfully so, understand the athletic programs in their respective institutions.
I agree. I have a saying that the key to life is to master the ability to adjust accordingly. And when you took over 23 years ago, you probably already had so much on your plate. And now, over the last few years, based on essentially what you're saying, there's more on your plate. Tell me how you have to adjust accordingly, I guess, to this. You have to add more and more to your plate. I mean, I guess the human resource can only go so far. Do you just hire more people, or how do you process this much information? I'm intrigued by what a president has to do and how you guys lead.
Well, the entity of time has not expanded. So
Right.
We have limited time, and that means we have to set up priorities. We have to hire good people. We have to rely on certain systems. Having grown up in the Navy, everyone has a system. Everyone has an organizational chain of command, and one has to make sure that that chain of command is working. And I think that's the key to success. Does that mean that it's not fail-proof, that there can't be an issue of serious breach? No. However, if one works on organization and works on time management and prioritization, I think it's still possible to raise money and be involved in the student life as well as oversee athletics.
All right. Well, that's an excellent answer, and I think it's very important. Ron, I think this has been a great conversation. It's very insightful to hear, what your opinions were prior to being a part of the NCAA Division I Board of Directors and Governance, and then hearing how you feel about it now and your perspective now. I really appreciate you joining us here on One Question.
My pleasure, Ty. Good to be with you.
That was Ron Machtley. He's the president at Bryant University. And of course, this is Ty Brown with One Question. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today. This episode of One Question is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.